From the Victory Studios in downtown Little Rock, this is Capitol View with your host, David Goins.
And good Sunday morning to you. Welcome into Capitol View. Thanks for being with us. We're just 2 days before Election Day, and the annual Arkansas poll is now out. We'll talk to its organizer, plus the final political long table before the election. Breaks down the latest push in all the big races, and that's where we begin as national surrogates make their final trip into Arkansas. Several Republican governors in Arkansas on Friday, stumping for Asa Hutchinson and Tom Cotton. Chris Christie, governor of New Jersey, Mike Pence, governor of Indiana, and Bill Haslam of Tennessee all stopped in Jonesboro Friday, along with former Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour. It's part of the Get Out the Vote rally for the GOP. The outspoken New Jersey governor telling Arkansans that Hutchinson is the man to lead them.
He will make those decisions not only with his head, but with his heart. And that's the kind of leader you want sitting in the governor's seat in Arkansas.
Northeast Arkansas seen as a key area for get out the vote efforts for both Democrats and Republicans. And President Bill Clinton making one last trip to Arkansas. Well, it was never a last trip. He was here all the time. But for the election ahead of Democrats, ahead of Election Day. Now he is touring the state today, stopping in West Memphis, Blytheville, Texarkana, and Fort Smith, so covering really the entire state. This is the third whirlwind tour through Arkansas for the 42nd president, as he's made here in the last few weeks, hoping to support and get out the Democratic vote. Well, in just 2 days, a Senate campaign that's lasted nearly 2 years will come to a conclusion. Now, last Sunday, we went all access with Senator Mark Pryor. And this morning, we catch up with Congressman Tom Cotton as he spends his final few days on the campaign trail in his home district.
It's our adversaries calling because they don't like the number of Republicans that we have here getting people out to early vote.
Opportunity definitely ringing for Tom Cotton, the Dardanelle native seen as a key piece in Republicans' hope for a majority in the U.S. Senate.
And I see so many faces here today who were there with me that day and who have been with me for the last 3 years. And now I just need you to be with me for 6 more days.
Speaking to the same supporters who sent him to D.C. 2 years ago, the freshman congressman pushing a straightforward message.
I need you to go vote. I know a lot of you have already early voted. Don't go vote again.
His U.S. Senate bid, however, far from the only thing on the 37-year-old's plate.
3 goals: get married, get pregnant, get elected. So we're 2 for 3, and we're about to be 3 for 3, right?
He's a bit of a rock star for the retired crowd in Hot Springs, working the room, even looking up his own schedule.
Yeah, Stu's Kitchen at 7:30 to 9 on Friday.
Yep, right down.
Come see. Tell everyone else to join us.
Okay.
I've never seen anything like it, and I know there's a lot at stake, not just for Arkansas, but for our entire country. So both sides are fighting.
The campaign shifts to rally mode at a brief event in Little Rock, where afterwards Cotton shares with us what a Republican-led Senate would look like, pointing to his support for letting people keep non-Obamacare compliant plans permanently.
I don't think we'd be passing bills with 51 votes or even 60 votes. I think we'd be passing bills with 70 or 75 votes.
And then something like that lands on the president's desk and he probably vetoes it.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. You know, the president has taken a lot of actions from an administrative standpoint that I actually think are the right policy, like letting people keep their plan for another year.
But he admits many changes he wants won't happen, at least not soon.
We all know that we're not going to be able to do that with Barack Obama in the White House, but if we can delay some of the worst harms, it doesn't just protect Arkansans, it also helps us get to 2017 when hopefully with a new Republican president we can repeal Obamacare and we can start over in healthcare reform. And as we've talked about a few times here on Capitol View, many eyeballs on this Senate race from outside the state as well. That manifested itself again this week in eastern Arkansas. Meet the Press moderator, NBC's Chuck Todd, rolling around the nation in his Meet the Voters bus. During a stop in Crawfordsville in eastern Arkansas, Todd reflected on a Senate race that was a lot closer and has been a lot closer than some national observers may have imagined.
It's shocking that Mark Pryor's still in this thing. I think when you look at sort of the Republican shift that has taken place in Arkansas over the last few years, this is a race, frankly, that a bunch of us in Washington assumed would already be over.
And Todd also taking some time to chat with Senator Pryor on his visit. Pryor making national headlines by saying that he would stand firm in supporting Harry Reid as the Democrat leader in the Senate in 2015, assuming he does win his re-election bid. Pryor said he's also hoping more of his colleagues will follow his example and work across the aisle.
It's been a while. I mean, I've seen a deterioration, there's no doubt. But you know what? Maybe after this election, maybe we get back to Washington, get back to work. I'm certainly willing to roll up my sleeves and get to work.
So January 3rd comes, Harry Reid, Senate Democratic leader, or maybe it's Mitch McConnell, Senate Republican, comes to you and says you get to introduce the first bill of the year. What is it?
I would probably focus on jobs and the economy.
Prior adding that that would include legislation targeted at increasing manufacturing jobs in the state, like in eastern Arkansas. Well, coming up after a quick break, the Arkansas poll is released. Dr. Janine Perry from the University of Arkansas will join us to share her thoughts on the results. I'm David Goins. You're enjoying Capitol View on Sunday morning.
During the fantastic 5-day sale at Furniture Row, everything is on sale.
What about this?
Yes, every lamp, every rug, every dining set.
What about this?
Yeah, every sofa. Everything means everything.
Got it.
Beautiful designs, comfortable prices. Furniture Row.
I never sponsored a bill to sponsor eminent domain so that pipeline companies could take land away from private landowners.
That's what Jason Rapert says. But the bill has his name on it, and the bill clearly states, quote, except for use by pipeline companies. Read it for yourself at bigoilchampions.com. It exposes the real Jason Rapert. Then ask yourself, what else is Rapert being dishonest about?
In Judge Judy's court,
you only have one chance to make a first impression.
One side of the story is never enough.
What are you, nuts?
One big mouth gets you in big trouble.
Trust me, you are done.
And one dumb question brings an answer that smarts.
You left out a word. Stupid.
No wonder you've made her America's favorite judge.
I'm not just a pretty face.
There's only one Judge Judy.
This is my playpen.
Weekdays at 3 and 4 on KARK. When the Hogs hit the field, the Razorback Nation puts you in the action. Stand up proud and call the Hogs. It's Razorback Nation Game Day. Join us Saturday mornings at 10 as the Razorback Nation team brings you the only statewide pregame show. And go to our Facebook page to hear the new Game Day song by Barrett Baber. It's Gear Up for Game Day, Saturdays at 10 a.m. Brought to you by Wendy's and Arkansas's best Chevy dealers.
In celebration of Denver Mattress opening up its biggest store ever in Kentucky, all stores nationwide will join in the savings. Head to your nearest Denver Mattress to find great deals like our Factory Direct Summit Queen Mattress for only $199. Denver Mattress at Furniture Row.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to Capitol View. I'm David Goins. One of the sure signs that we've reached the end of the campaign season is the annual Arkansas poll conducted by the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. Comes out about this time every year. Joining us now, the person who organizes that poll, Dr. Janine Perry from the Department of Political Science up at the U of A in Fayetteville. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump in. We have some graphics that we'll be able to see here on screen. Let's look first at the U.S. Senate race, because obviously in this political season, that's something that's getting a lot of attention. The Arkansas poll finding Tom Cotton up in this race by 13 points. And I know that you've talked about already this week about how wide of a margin that is. What do you think is accounting for that wide of a margin in this race, considering what we've seen in other polls?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's clear that Cotton's been leading for some time. I think there have been 21 polls, at least at this point, and according to realclearpolitics.com, which I consult almost daily, and 19 of them have shown Cotton with the lead. And just really only recently, though, in most polls has he been creeping outside the margin of error. So I really expected it would be a lead for Cotton, but probably in the single digits. What's happening here, it's hard to say. It could be that I got a bad sample, except that if you look at how this sample and how the respondents' answers compare to the sample and respondents' answers in the past, when we've performed extremely well on the head-to-head contests, there's nothing here that provides alarm. So it could be that the barrage of spending in the last few days has kind of intensified, and that's solidified. It's pulled maybe some of those independents over into the Cotton camp. Or it could be that people were just trying to jack me up on this question. It's really hard to say.
Well, I've heard from folks who are following, especially Democrat campaigns, who've essentially cited maybe the demographic breakdown of this particular poll, and they feel maybe that's not representative of who actually goes to the polls, especially in a non-presidential year. What's your thoughts about those two things?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a risk, and especially in an environment that's this noisy. We've had record-level campaigns in the past, but of course the new record keeps being broken, and so it could be that somehow the electorate looks different than it has in midterm elections in the past. But I guess my response to that is that, you know, say in 2006, we said that Mike Beebe would win by double digits, and I took a lot of heat from the Republicans for getting the wrong result that year, and indeed he won by double digits. The same thing happened in 2010 when we made some calls about how wide the margin would be, and it turned out to be exactly that way. It's interesting because it's not actually really what the poll is intended to do. We want to talk mostly about policy, but we have become and had a really good track record on election prediction nonetheless. So we're able to do both. We can talk about policy with our broader sample. We can talk about politics and horse race elections with the smaller sample. I guess we'll just have to see how it comes out.
Yeah, I know a lot of times polls are not meant to necessarily be prognostication of election day, and this is done in an academic environment and setting, and that is what it is intended to do. We should also note that the governor's race has that 11-point spread between Hutchison and Ross, with Hutchison leading some of the same factors seen there in the Senate race. But I do want to kind of touch on some of these broader issues we talked about, because we discussed the Arkansas poll on Capitol View about this time last year, and one of the questions I think is really interesting that you ask is, what is the most important problem facing the state? And this is kind of the response you got. It's on our screen right now. The economy leading the way with more than 30%, but then politicians themselves coming in second. Healthcare third at 16%, and way down the line towards the bottom, taxes, which we hear so much about from every candidate from every party, at 4%. What are you taking away from these responses?
Well, it's interesting. One thing your viewers might want to know is that for the 16 years we've done this, something like 12,000 interviews, we alternate the way we ask it each year. So in odd-numbered years, we actually ask for an open response question. We just ask people straight up, in your opinion, what's the most pressing issue or problem in Arkansas today? And then we, after the fact, look for patterns, and then we use the top 6 mentions from the odd-numbered years, and then we use those in the even-numbered years. And last year, during the shutdown, the federal government shutdown, we were in the field. And so I think that just by open mentions, that's how politicians in politics made their way to the top as their own independent problem. And then, of course, this year people had it as an option of just 1 of 6. So you're more likely to get people to choose that response. And then, of course, to boot, this year we have this barrage of advertising in a competitive election year, certainly for the U.S. Senate contest in particular, in terms of its influence on the national scope. So I think all those things taken in a combination means we're in the field when people are sort of disgusted, and that's what you see reflected here. It's bumped out some of those classic issues that are almost always in the top 3. Those all got moved down relative to politics and politicians.
Is that a sign from your estimation, your research, that a large number of people in the state and really throughout the country are saying they're just not pleased with whichever party is leading the way in D.C.?
Yeah, I do think that, and another indicator of that actually you can find in the approval ratings, which for the second year in a row were miserable almost down the line, except of course for Democratic Governor Mike Beebe, who, like Mike Huckabee, actually Republican before him, seems to be almost untouchable in terms of his approval ratings. Everybody else is down in the 30s, and I think if they're not on the ballot this year, they're real grateful for that fact.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Janine Perry, thank you so much for joining us this morning from Fayetteville for the Arkansas poll, something we'll always look forward to, and certainly something folks will be digesting all throughout the weekend leading up to Election Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, when we come back, our political long table will get the last word on the biggest races here in Arkansas. We've been talking about them for months, and it all coming down to conclusion. Alice Stewart, Jessica DeLoach, they're coming up next. I'm David Goins. You have Capitol View on Sunday morning.
This is a special announcement. J. Oliver's at 400 North Bowman Road is going out of business. Everything must be sold immediately. Hurry in for best selection on all high-quality fine jewelry. Everything priced to sell now. Now's the time to buy your Christmas.
Why do you keep refusing to remember that day?
Who are you?
Someone hired to destroy you.
Madam President.
The day your fiancé died, there was only one target, you.
You know they're going to detain you.
Not if they can't catch me.
From the director of The Blacklist, Katherine Heigl, in State of Affairs, November 17th, here on NBC.
Every child's wish is to have their very own pet fish.
Look, Mom, we got a fish.
Now you need the perfect tank that's easy to clean so your fish can be seen. Introducing My Fun Fish Tank, the kid-friendly aquarium that cleans itself like magic. Just add clean water and the dirty water flows out. The secret is gravity green technology. When you pour clean water in on top, dirty water on the bottom pushes out through the cleaning spout. My Fun Fish Tank turns the water fresh, oxygenated, and clean so your fish can be happy, healthy, and seen. You can get the complete My Fun Fish Tank for $14.99 plus $6.95 processing and handling. It comes with one white LED light for fun nighttime viewing, all the riverbed stones you'll need to set it up, and a decorative aquatic plant. As a bonus, we'll give you our nighttime fun fish tank kit with 2 colored LED lights and glow-in-the-dark stones for $6.95 processing and handling. You can call or log on at myfunfish.com. You must be 18 years or older to call or log on.
It's Razorback Nation Game Day. Join us Saturday mornings at 10 as the Razorback Nation team brings you the only statewide pregame show. Brought to you by Wendy's and Arkansas's best Chevy dealers.
This is a special announcement. J. Oliver's at 400 North Bowman Road is going out of business. Everything must be sold immediately. Hurry in for best selection on all high-quality fine jewelry. Everything priced to sell now. Now's the time to buy your Christmas.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
All right, welcome back to Capitol View. Joining us for our final pre-election roundtable before Tuesday, Alice Stewart and Jessica Deloach, thank y'all so much for joining us this morning.
Great to be here.
Okay, so we just had Dr. Janine Perry on from the University of Arkansas talking about the Arkansas poll. Alice, I'll start with you. Obviously, there's a myriad of polls. There was 3 really this week, if you go back to Sunday with the NBC News Marist poll. But this one gets a lot of attention and clearly top line with Governor and Senate, a lot of reaction there.
Absolutely. And the key with it, she did a great job explaining how they conducted the poll and how they reached the numbers they did. I'm just like Dr. Perry. Every day I go to Real Clear Politics and look at the numbers and crunch numbers. And Tom Cotton has been leading these polls consistently for months and months and months. The last time Senator Pryor blipped on the Real Clear Politics was back in mid-September. Congressman Cotton has been leading by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points in the Real Clear Politics average. And this just goes to show that the surge is moving in his direction. He's in double-digit lead with Asa Hutchinson up 11 on Mike Ross. That just goes to show that there is a Republican tide. And also part of that poll shows that they asked who will you vote for in the congressional races. Republicans did well there.
Yeah.
And this is the bottom line is President Obama said it himself. My policies are on the ballot. Clearly, the people of Arkansas are indicating they don't like those policies.
Jessica, give me a scenario here from the Democratic perspective on election eve here.
Sure. Well, going back to that poll, which, you know, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Perry's, her work. I mean, I think she's very thorough with what she does. You know, she made the point that even in the past, she's done polls where they've drawn criticism from onlookers, and she's been able to go back after the fact and say, hey, look, this wasn't too far off. And I think Democrats would be really smart for taking note of that and saying, okay, let's just go with she's not far off in these findings. What we need to do is utilize these findings to mobilize our base. We've got a couple of days left. Tuesday's almost here. We've got to get our voters out. So I think it should be a motivator for the party just to double down on its GOTV efforts. I think that would be the wisest move to make based on what we're seeing in these numbers.
Do you think this sounds any additional alarm bells at this point, or do you think this is pretty much what people within Democratic circles kind of felt?
I think that there's been a little bit of, you know, yeah, we've been feeling this for sure. I mean, there's a reason why they've been doubling down on getting these voters out to the polls. There's a reason why President Clinton is coming into the state to do one big push here at the end in very strategic areas because they know where they need to draw out their voters.
And I think that's a telltale sign. Having President Clinton back in state this afternoon, I think it's very telling that they realize that they've got a lot of work to do. They've been touting for months all the great work that the Democrats have done in terms of voter registration. Well, that's great. It doesn't mean anything if you're not getting them out to the polls. And based on the early voting numbers and data that the GOP is getting from the field, the strong voter turnout is in these heavy Republican counties up in northwest Arkansas, and that just goes to show that the GOP efforts to register voters but also get them out is working.
Alice, I'll ask you a question that you may or may not want to answer. Give me a scenario on how Pryor or Ross can pull this out.
I honestly, I don't see how it can possibly happen.
You have to give me one.
Let's see. Every person that votes from tomorrow and on Tuesday, every Republican vote somehow turns up Democrat. That's the only way. No, nothing's going to happen. I mean, anything that could come out in terms of that would be negative on the other candidates has come out. They are just unfortunate victims of the weight of President Barack Obama. Both of them. Mark Pryor has supported his policies more than 90% of the time. Mike Ross is voted Obamacare out of committee. They're like we're seeing all across this country. Democrats who have supported this administration's policies are suffering the consequences, and there's no amount, clearly, there's no amount of voter contact that's going to make the difference.
We've kind of seen this before, maybe in a flip side, 2006, with a lot of Senate Republicans kind of taking the fall in President Bush's second term. So perhaps we'll see on Tuesday about that. Let's talk real quickly about the second congressional district race, because I think a lot of people, when these races started, really thought we probably had 4 potentially safe Republican seats, because they're all Republican now. We can argue about safe or not. But anyways, second district looks fairly close, and I know both campaigns are going back and forth. Jessica, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on how close Hayes is to Hill at this point coming into the last couple days.
Sure, I do believe that Patrick Hayes is ahead of candidate Hill. I definitely believe that. I think he's probably ahead by at least 3 or 4 points. He'll continue to do the same thing he's been doing. He's been getting out, meeting voters, pushing his base. He has a lot of very good energy and momentum behind him. I'm expecting him to do very well on Tuesday.
Alice, I know the Hill campaign has been hitting Hayes for his, kind of wrapping himself around the NRA, talking about his NRA member, but his record, has an F rating. Hill has an A rating, I believe, but it's AQ because he's not
an elected
not elected.
Sure.
Did the Hill campaign wait too long to bring this up? Because that's the sense I'm getting.
Well, that's a key point, and it's not just about them hitting. They're pointing out his record. I mean, his record that he has put out there is false. He's misleading the people of the second district. I think it's going to certainly make the difference. This race is a lot closer than a lot of people thought it was going to be, because French Hill had a lead early on in the beginning. But this is going to be key. People in the second district, people of Arkansas, we like our Second Amendment rights. We like the right to bear arms. And knowing that Mayor Hayes misrepresented his membership,
but is it too late? Because we've half the electorate have already voted at this point.
There are plenty of other issues that the people are looking at. That would have, yes.
That's a pretty big one, though. In Arkansas,
nice
Second
if this
Amendment.
would have come out before early voting? Absolutely. But I think there are plenty of other issues that people are looking at. French Hill has been a strong candidate, has done a great job reaching out to the people of that district. I think there are much more issues that are going to bring people to the polls to vote for French Hill than the NRA.
All right, we'll see. Okay, Jessica DeLoach and Alice Stewart, we'll wrap it up here in a little bit. When we come back, we will hit the road with Mike Ross, hear what the Democratic candidate for governor says he needs to do to close the gap we've been talking about. I'm David Goins. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Ring, ring.
Progresso.
It's okay that your soup tastes like my homemade.
It's our slow-simmered vegetables and tender white meat chicken.
Apology accepted. I'm watching you, soup people.
Make it Progresso or make it yourself. Some people think vegetables are boring. But with Green Giant's delicious seasonings and blends, we just may change their minds.
Ho, ho, ho. Green Giant.
For local news that matters, count on KARK4.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. It's been the most expensive and, in many regards, negative campaign for governor in Arkansas. We have seen Asa Hutchinson, Mike Ross crisscrossing the state as we enter the run-up to Election Day on Tuesday. Now, I did have a chance to travel to Southwest Arkansas with Mike Ross on Monday. Take a look.
Every day's election day from now to November 4th except for Sunday.
Yeah, I'm going this week.
It's going to be very close.
And with the campaign close to ending,
Please help me all you can. It's going to be close. We just got to get our people out to vote.
the message from Mike Ross makes it clear no one is more acutely aware of the challenge the former Democratic congressman faces than him.
But I need y'all to think about 10 people you know that you know's registered to vote, that always shows up in presidential election years, but sometimes they don't go vote in these midterm elections.
On Monday, Ross on familiar ground, his old 4th Congressional District in Hot Springs, Arkadelphia, and his hometown of Prescott.
How are you doing?
He did a good job.
Good to see you.
How are you doing?
Fine.
You holding up?
Yes, sir.
You.
I'm good.
Okay.
Keep praying for me.
Oh, I ain't quit.
Thank you.
I told you that before you started.
Thank you. And there are good, hard-working people in every corner of this state, whether they support me or not. People in this state are just good people, and you know, I've made a lot of new friends that will last me a lifetime.
We're with Ross on a tour of Alliance Rubber in Hot Springs, where just about every rubber band sold in the U.S. gets its start.
But that uses a lot of ink, doesn't it?
It does. I've seen you on TV.
Yes, ma'am. You may be tired of seeing me on TV by next Tuesday.
Oh, my.
The Arkadelphia Senior Center, where a reliable voting block awaits.
Good to be in your city.
It's great to have you in our city.
Thank you.
We appreciate what you've done.
Ross mentioning polls often on this day. Most now have them at least a few points behind Republican Asa Hutchinson.
Every commercial that's been aired against me has had either President Obama or Nancy Pelosi in it. When, you know, the people know.
What do you think that would say about essentially how politics works in this state if the nationalization strategy works?
Well, again, I don't believe that the voters in Arkansas are going to allow all these out-of-state billionaires to buy a governor's seat in Arkansas.
Really know more come Tuesday night. Let's wrap it up with Alice Stewart and Jessica DeLoach. Paint me a picture for Tuesday night, Alice.
Oh, first off, Mike Ross is a tremendously nice guy. Unfortunately, the numbers just don't look in his favor or any of the Democrats' favor. The poll we saw out of University of Arkansas, double-digit leads in the Senate and governor's race and down the ticket. And the key is making sure folks get out and vote. We got 2 more days to go vote. Get out and vote because every vote counts. But it's going to be a tremendous night for the Republicans, and it's because we have good candidates who've worked really hard. We have the right message that represents the people of Arkansas.
And Jessica, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Northeast Arkansas, because so many people have talked to me about how important Northeast Arkansas was. We saw Chris Christie there on Friday.
Right.
Campaigns hitting there over and over again. Get out the vote in that part of the state is going to be critical, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, the Democrats are targeting the exact same area of the state. I mean, there are a lot of voters there that are much needed. We need them at the polls, too. Tuesday will be a very interesting day for the Democrats, just nationwide, because it is definitely a Republican year. You will see some Republican gains all across the country, and you'll see a lot of that here in the state of Arkansas as well. But you'll also see some Democratic victories, too.
Okay. Jessica DeLoach, Alice Stewart, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Away we go. The wheel is running towards Tuesday. That is it for this morning's show. We'll be back next week for the first post-election edition of Capitol View. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Sunday.